didn't go to missionary school, right? That was available to them in Honduras, in the little village that he grew up. That doesn't mean that he was not taught and learned. You know what I'm saying? So I remember years later when I was in Harlem, because I grew up in Harlem, I started hearing this phrase in the 60s that it takes a village to raise a child, right? That was like this quote that came out of Africa, right? Yeah. So when I met Sebi and I went to Honduras and I observed and everything, and he would tell stories about how he grew up, he was like that poster child, because that's how he grew up and learned his information. He learned how to read, he learned how to do math, because he didn't go to the missionary school, but his family was in the village, the people of the village, right? It was an African village, right? They taught him.
Yeah, that's right.
They taught him. He had family that was in business. He had a grandfather that used to build ships. So Sebi was a child that the grandmother would send him to his grandfather, and he was an apprentice, right? He had another grandmother on his Jamaican Haitian side that owned a brothel, and that's where he learned math, because he did the books. You see what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that because he didn't go to school in the missionary matrix, structure.
He didn't have that technical thing then.
No, he didn't have the matrix conditioning of education that the Christian missionaries were teaching the children. Because he used to tell this story about he went to school with all his friends and he didn't like it. So he came home, he told his grandmother, Grandma don't like it, I don't want to go back there. And she said, you don't have to. So then that's when he got directed to the different elders in the community teaching him. So what he said was, when at the end of the day, his friends who were all going to school, they would get together, they would teach Fred what the missionaries taught him. So he talked about a time when they were teaching them those nursery rhymes, hey diddle diddle, the cat in the field, the cow jumped over the moon. So when they told him that, he said, Joe, in Spanish, right? That's nonsense they're teaching you. And so the boy, his friend was all defensive. Oh no, it is not. It was, because you know they gave him the books, little nursery rhyme book. He said, look, there's that picture. So then Sebi said, he told all the group of them, right? He said, let me tell you something in Spanish, right? He said, you see that cow in that field right there? You see that fence? That cow can't even jump over that fence. So they're lying to you. So these are the experiences he was having back then. Because right. So he used to tell that story because he used to say, so he would tell that story and say that's why his children are not going to school, because nobody's going to set his children up with those lies. Because when you can teach somebody, hey, if the cow jump over the moon and they believe it, then you can teach them Santa Claus.
Right. So now we're in a situation where people is talking about vaccines because they got to send their children to school. You already lost at this particular point.
That's a double.
Your children who are your parents now should have put themselves in a position where you can raise your own children. You can have these children outside of the hospital. You know, we're moving closer and closer and closer into the box. As opposed to a time when our grandparents had a dozen children. You know what I mean? They knew how to
women know how to birth the children.
They know how to birth the children. They knew how to immunize the children without vaccines. They knew how to raise food and cultivate it. And that's, what you're talking about is key, because Sebi exuded a level of fearlessness when we met him as children. I used to look up to him, and he was 800 feet tall. Because he was not paranoid, bothered, or fluctuated by no Europeans whatsoever.
No.
I'm talking about whatsoever. And I seen this as a 7, 8, 9-year-old. And that's where I got mine from, because he was not scared. And you had that confidence just from being around him that there was nothing to be fearful of.
See, you know, see, another thing is, this is why these platforms are very important, because this is not anything new. Like we all sitting around here and we're sharing information, right? And each of us, you know, from our own experience and wisdom, right? Yes. This is something that used to happen all the time. Brothers used to do this in the barbershop. The sisters was throwing this down in the beauty parlor. It was happening in the church. It would be happening in each other's homes. Because before TV, right, people were getting together on a more one-on-one human basis, doing what we're doing now. Telling stories, sharing stories. Because you learn from that. See,
tribal education.
Right. So we know the traditional saying that we hear this often, right? Oh, so much was lost, you know, historically, culturally, traditionally in our people, because our people taught us they taught in the oral tradition. Things weren't written down. You know, say like our counterpart, the Caucasian, where everything is written down, every little thing is detailed in the journal. I mean, you know, so supposedly we had that difference, and maybe that was that didn't work on our behalf, right? But I said all of that to say that had I not grew up in a time in Harlem where that was still intact, right? Who I am today, I would not have been able to project in the future who I am today.
Deep.
You see?
Deep.
But because of those elders in the community, right? And the fact that the oral tradition was still intact, and I learned all kinds of information from aunts, nanas, women in the beauty salon, you know, just people in the street. Because when I was born in '56, and I was being raised in Harlem, Harlem was still like a village. So everybody was your parent. Everybody was your guardian. Everybody could discipline you. And you responded favorably to the discipline. It got shut, whatever, like in other words, the minute somebody saw some kind of demonic, evil entity trying to express itself in you, it got shut right down. Either with a look, because there was an energy behind the look, or you got your ass beat with a switch or something. And they could do it, and it worked. I grew up in that era when that was still going on, right? But I say all that to say, this is important because trust me, Brother Rich, somebody is going to be watching this, that this information that we are sharing tonight is going to help that child, that teenager, project themselves 50 years in the future. Because out of this information, they are going to decide who and what they're going to be and what they're going to do. Trust me. That's how it works.
That's fact.
That is a fact.
That's a fact.
And I'm 63. I think I'm the eldest one here, so I can speak to that. You know, because I could have chosen different ways to go. And I used to try to tell red pill and blue pill stories about how Harlem was when I was a child, right? And then recently, this mini-series has come on Netflix, right? Called The Godfather of Harlem, right?
Yeah.
And so I watched it. I didn't so much. I heard about Bumpy Johnson because my father knew about him and used to talk about him, but I didn't met him. I don't remember seeing him or anything. But the thing about this piece, right, is that when I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's like I'm a fly on the wall. I mean, I was there. Even down to the little girl, like in the first episode, Bumpy Johnson is coming home, and the daughter, the way she was dressed, the way her hair was plaited, with the bow in it, the little dress she had on, the little white shoes, the white socks, the white gloves, that's how they used to dress me. I was like, oh my God. I mean, in terms of the time period, and then what they when I was looking a few episodes ahead, when I was trying to tell Red Pill, Blue Pill, KT, their sister, how I saw the Harlem community change with the chemical warfare when the heroin came in. When the heroin came in, and when the place just looked like it was bombed out, like it was like a world war, right? And they're showing that. There was a couple of scenes when they showed Bumpy and Malcolm, like in the projects, and then on a block where it was all burnt. I said, man, shit, this is what I was telling them, and this is what they're seeing now. Now, I said all of that to say this. I was in the midst of that reality coming into being. I saw the genesis of that. Now, I could have made a choice to be Bumpy Johnson's daughter and use the doogie and be a junkie, or I could have made a choice, like a lot of my girlfriends did, to deal with the brother on the street that was selling the doogie and showing up with the cars and the furs and the diamonds and the designer stuff. But I made a conscious choice not to do that. And the way I was able to do that is because of the elders in the community, and my father, his friends. Because at 12 years old, my father would take me with him to the barber shop and make me sit down while these brothers was talking. All this knowledge. And I heard a couple of talks where they was talking about how the heroin was being brought in the community as chemical warfare. And I was 12 years old. Right? And then I had a father that put the law down to me and my sister and said, if you come in here, because my father was a calypso musician, right? And that's how we knew about Farrakhan, because he's the one who taught Farrakhan how to play the ukulele. Because Farrakhan and he have a friendship, because my father's from the United States Virgin Islands, and Farrakhan's people, I believe, are from there too. And not only that, my father introduced Farrakhan's wife, his current wife, to him, because they were friends before Farrakhan married her. Right, before Farrakhan married her. So I'm just saying, this was the mix, right? This was the mix. But I say all of that to say this. He told my sister, so my father was out there in the street. He was in the social clubs, because he was a singer, and then he was a cook. So he was in those social clubs. The social clubs, I mean, are these places where black men congregated, and they gamble, they drink alcohol, and all of that. So one night he came home, and he told my sister and I that if we came home and he saw any indication that we were on heroin, dead. He said, you're just going to be dead. I'm going to kill you. Right? And my father wasn't, my father didn't discipline us by hitting us and spanking us. He sat us down and he talked. That was the discipline. It was verbal. It was knowledge. He was using knowledge to get into our psyche, to direct us and navigate us in the world, right? Now, what I should leave out is this. There was a guy that I liked, and one night he one day he walked me home. That's what really triggered it. And he was a recovering heroin addict in one of these programs they used to have in Harlem, NARC or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So when my father came home and saw me and this guy, we lived in a kitchenette, right? So we were standing in front of the brownstone, and I'm sitting there, and he's, you know, standing over me and talking to me and wooing me and all this kind of stuff. So he came, and I introduced my father to him, and then when I went upstairs, and my sister got home, that's when he had to talk, right? And he broke it down about what the heroin was, and that he is in the streets, he's in the social clubs, he sees what women do who are addicted, and they want their fix, and what the guys have the women do in the social clubs to get the money, to get the fix. And he said, no daughter of mine that I brought into this world is going to exist like that. I'll kill you first. So, you know, so that was kind of shocking, but I got it, right? I got it. And that's with him not going into describing what he saw the women do, right? But it's the way he said it, right? Then my sister and I, because we knew he loved us, right? We was like, ha, you won't kill me. And his comeback was this: you might be right, but guess what? I know some niggas out there that I'll pay them $50 for their fix. And they will kill your ass.
Wow.
I was like,
that was it.
I got you, brother. I totally got it. You are like, he was that adamant about it. What he was not going to allow my sister and I to ever be a part of. And so, of course, you know, man, that was my immunity. Because I was in the street, out there partying with my sister and her girlfriends. I was going to parties where the girls were in the bathroom sniffing, because sniffing glue was very big. That, you know, then too. I'm talking, you know, I'm 63, so we're talking the 60s, right? And there were instances where people were using heroin. I mean, they couldn't pay me to do it because all I kept hearing was what he said, you know. So what I learned from that is how important information is to the youth. How important information is, because it can
change a life.
It can help navigate. So in other words, the Christian. So the Christians used to say this. I think this is coming out of the Bible too. To be in the world and not of the world. That's a biblical scripture that's very powerful. So that was another thing my father, his friends would constantly put in my head, that Annette, you're gonna be in this world, but you're not gonna be of this world, right? So one of the reasons why, when I met Sebi and my aunt and some other people that were partners with them when I met him in the United States Virgin Islands in 1981, is that he was talking about creating this institute of healing for people of color all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And one day, Brother Rich, I'll come to you and I'll bring like the articles of incorporation, because he not only talked it the first night I met him in the the rainforest of St. Croix, but over a period of years when I joined him and I joined my aunt and the brother Olu, Karen, and Larry, the what he taught got written on paper, and then the articles of incorporation were actually incorporated in Delaware in like 1984, 85, right? But part of what really was the driving force for me with coming together in that union was I understood how important information was, how important the right information would be, because I know that information, like I said earlier, is what enabled me to navigate myself, know who I was, know what I should be doing, and project myself into the future doing it. So, I've grown older, and I've grown older, and I hear all kinds of, there's all kind of thought about, manifesting. What's the other one? The secret, all these kind of things. But I'm telling you, as a 63-year-old who's still alive, what worked in the black community, in my family, in my community, in the churches. As a matter of fact, Professor Smalls was at the event last night. He spoke, right?
Yes.
Now, Professor Smalls, Dr. Ben,
Dr. Clark,
Dr.
Felder, right?
Felder. I used to see these men up at a place called Third World Alliance. My father used to take me there every Saturday. I think it was every Saturday or every Sunday night. These elders would, you see how we're doing now?
Yes.
These elders would come to that church and do a presentation. And of course, it would be, it'd be more people, like in the audience than what's here now. But, the media is different now because you're going to post this and people are going to, see this all over the world. But I'm saying, I saw all of those people, right? And a lot of times I was upset that I was there because I wanted to be out in the street playing with my friends.
That's right. That's right.
But this is also something I heard recently. I was looking at the Today Show, and they were interviewing the two Bush twins, former President Bush, those two twin daughters he has, right? So they have just written this book called Sisters, right? Where they, the book is about, it's almost like a diary of their life, right? But what was very profound that they said was the importance of storytelling. Like when they were children, they remember holiday or around the dinner table, their father, their mother would tell them stories about their great ancestors that came over and where they came from and who they were when they came from, where they came from, and then what they did when they were here. Right.
Legacy.
So then Al Roker says, oh yes, Yale just did a research where they tested 100, freshman college students, and the result was that when these teenagers go to family gatherings and the elders are telling oral history, that 95% of the teenagers retain 95% of the information that's being spoken without them even focusing on what's being said at the moment. So then I thought, when he said that, I said, when he said that, I'm thinking black people oral tradition, right? Storytelling, right? Griot, right? All of that cultural stuff. Then the twin sisters say, oh, when they told us how our grandparents met, right? And, they go back and forth, right? They said that put us on a course to project who we were going to be in the future.
Wow. How powerful is that?
So, this is so important, what we're doing.
Right. Because we
don't ever trivialize it. We don't all have to be on the same page about everything. But I'm telling you, what saved me was information coming from a source where I know that these people were saying what they were saying out of love. I'm telling you, every last one of them. You understand? Because these forums, people were not making a whole lot of money. Up at Third World Alliance, it was probably $5 to get in. So it wasn't predicated on at the end of this we making $1,000 at the door. You understand what I'm saying? It just hasn't started, or it's just not Elijah and Garvey and
Drew Ali. Drew Ali.
Yeah, that have love and compassion for our people. I mean, it just started with them. It's been in all of our ancestors. It's been there all the while.
That's fact.
It's been there all the while. You see? Right. So we just have to continue to tell these stories, because like I said, there's going to be so many young people listening to this dialogue. Right. I'm telling you, 20 years down the road, you'll be walking down the street, and a brother and a sister will say, "Thank you so much. I was listening to you, and after that, and I started, and I did this, and now I'm doing." And how do I know that? Because that's what happens to me all the time.
She get it.
Right now,
I'm getting it all the time. I'm getting it all the time. And why? So I am forever grateful. Like today, I called a sister in the community. Now she's got to be in her 80s, because I'm in my 60s, right? And her name is Black Rose, and she was one of the original what they call, I think it's called Modessa models in the 60s, where the sisters were wearing their fros and no makeup and wearing the cultural clothes.
Natural movement was
right. No, for real. No, really. So I talked to her today because 3 weeks ago I was back on WBAI when they came back up on the 7th of November after being shut down on the October 7th, and I listened to Basia's program, Education at Crossroads. So I listened to him. So he was, he does. They mention like up and coming events. They do like a calendar. So he mentioned a documentary that was being shown at Billie Holiday Theater. And the documentary was like a cultural piece. And so he said, boy, we're going to have some iconic elders there. Sister Black Rose and June Terry. She's the sister that at many of the African street festivals, you see her walking around and she has a silver white afro. I don't know if you guys ever seen it, right? Yeah, so they were going to be there, right? So I hadn't seen Black Rose since the 90s. So I was going to go, but the day of the event, it snowed, right? So I didn't go. So today I called someone who gave me her number, and I called her, right? And she was like, so happy to hear from me. She said, we go back decades. I mean, decades. Now, what was so awesome about it is, when I was 12 years old, my father got my hair cut like this, right? Yeah. She was one of the people who used to cut my hair.
Oh, she's
on 125th Street. She had she worked in a natural beauty salon, and so she used to shape my fro. So I had to be about 13, 14 years old when she was doing that. And she was one of the first sisters that, and she still makes them. She makes these scented oils for the body. Yeah. So I started buying those oils to put in my hair and on my skin back then. And she also was one of the people who gave me my first earning opportunity, because she would sell wholesale, where you could resell the oils, right?
And she's one of the only people alive today that attended every single day of Dr. Sebi's trial.
Yeah.
For all of the whack
Yeah.
100s out there
Yeah.
that are trying to shade the outcome or you know what happened in that trial. Sister Black Rose was there in attendance every single day.
But
So how did that come
look at the dynamics of this. I haven't talked to Black Rose since the 90s, maybe since the trial, which is the last time I saw her, right? So I'm talking to her, and she's excited because I'm trying to make an appointment for her to cut my hair, right? Because not everybody can cut the fro right? And I had a couple of bad experiences, right? So in the course of us speaking, she says, "Oh, guess who I just talked to?" And I was like, "Who, Black Rose? WeWhy just called me." You know what I'm saying? So
they don't know who WeWhy.
Yeah. So WeWhy is my aunt's oldest daughter.
Right.
Who
Sebi's stepdaughter. Right?
Who's Sebi's stepdaughter? Who
formulated the products.
Who, you know, I'm talking to Black Rose. She just spoke to WeWhy. WeWhy and Black Rose know each other because I'm the person that begged Sebi, like, to come to New York. You know, and then opened up the institute in 1985 on Pacific Street in Brooklyn. So I'm saying, you know,
the circle.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think, you know, after this young sister has given you the connection to Elijah and Malcolm on this song,
yes, sir,
and the connection to Farrakhan on this song,
yes, sir,
you know, I think she should be honorary crown.
Ooh.